Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 11 degrees of Leo, or almost 11 degrees of Leo, on August 2nd at 4:45 p.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or 1:45 p.m. Pacific time, which is also LA time or West Coast time in the US. So, of course, a new moon is always the beginning of a new moon cycle, and it's a great time to go within to seed anything we would like to connect to or with for the next 28 days. And we will also talk about the best and most potent times to set our new moon intentions towards the end of this video. So definitely stay tuned. And I also have a very important announcement to make, especially for those of you who live in New York or in the New York area, but also for everyone else. So don't miss that towards the end of the video. But let's first talk about the new moon in Leo. So Leo is a very fun-loving, extroverted, expressive energy. And it's all about coming from a heartfelt experience, all about the heart. It's all about really tapping into our joy. And it's important for us to really express ourselves fully and to learn about love and the power of creating from the heart. Now, the keywords for Leo, for this fire sign, it's a very fiery energy, is proud, generous, hospitable, caring, warm, authoritative, active, and open. So just think about those words and just think, how could you live into those words for the next 28 days? And maybe even have fun with that. Having kind of like fun is really important for Leo, for the Leo energy. Now, Leo is ruled by the sun sign, by the sun, which is, of course, a very lots of fire and energy there in the sun, and in the sun symbol, and it's the symbol of consciousness. The sun, it's our yang energy, it's our consciousness, and it represents the particular qualities that it has. It's really important that wherever our sun sign is, wherever that shows up in our chart, that's the place where we have to really shine and where we really need to kind of incorporate those qualities in this lifetime. We really want to connect to these qualities in this lifetime. So Leo, of course, being the sign that belongs to the sun or that connects with the sun energy, has to do very much about, exploring what we're here to explore, why we're born, and in particular expressing it, so whether that's with our body or our voice or with our, fingers and hands and our head or our legs, whatever way we want to express it, we will express it, right? So questions you can ask yourself with this Leo energy is, where and how could I shine my unique light more brightly? And what brings me joy? And not just in general, but for every moment of now, what brings me joy? So these are some questions you can ask yourself. And as always, with all my questions that I have in my videos, they're also available on my website at astrologercoach.com via my weekly forecasts. After July 31st, that's when I post the weekly forecast for next week. But you can also sign up for my weekly forecasts via email if you want to receive them in your inbox. Just write us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecast in the subject line. But back to the new moon. Leo, like I already mentioned a little bit, is very creative energy. It's about creativity. It's about us bringing something forth, right? Through our light, through our expressiveness, we're bringing something forth. And there's many ways to be creative and self-expressed. And so we have to really look to see what is that for ourselves, what is our own unique expression. And each one of us is a creator. Each one of us is creating all the time. That's what we do. That's why we all have a sun sign, because the sun sign is the part of us that's creating or that seeks to create. So it's very important to be very connected to that sun sign. And so to remember also that how we create is through every thought, through every word, through every action that we take. That's how we create all the time. And it's not about, being judgmental about, certain thoughts that we have, or certain words that we're speaking, or certain action that we've taken in the past maybe, or that we're taking in the moment and then we feel bad about them. It's really about being conscious, that the sun sign is about consciousness and us being aware how we use that energy, how we use our thoughts, our words, our actions, right? So creativity is something that really, it requires sort of like an open heart. It requires curiosity. It requires courage. It requires playfulness. It requires innocence to a certain degree, right? And to live that out, we really need to tap into what's unique about ourselves, our unique spark inside of us. And to tap into that, we got to tap into that from our heart space in a joyful way, right? So it needs to be exciting and joyful for us. And that's a very childlike energy. And Leo has that quality. Leo has that childlike quality. So we also need to allow ourselves the freedom to make mistakes, just like children make mistakes all the time. And they kind of like, get up and go again when they've made a mistake. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. Let me try something else, right? But we as adults, we need to really allow ourselves also to make mistakes, because creativity thrives on love and permission. And it's really stifled by judgment and fear. So in order for each one of us to be a healthy creator, and for each one of us to really live out our sun sign fully and completely, it's very important that we move away from judgment and fear towards ourselves and life in general, and move towards love and permission, giving ourselves permission to play and create and to be open. Now, take a moment, right now maybe even, to contact your free inner child, or after you've watched the video, right? And that place inside of you that is really connected to playing and creating, right? So that free inner child that just wants to kind of like go, oh yeah, just creating for creating's sake, right? What might that inner child need to come out and play? So you can ask yourself, if you're not fully connected to that inner child, what might that inner child need so it can feel safe enough to come out and play? And try asking it really gently and directly, because that part of you is in there, in each one of us. We have it in there. It's just sometimes, we have, buried it, or we've locked the door to it, or we've just, we've been told off about being that free inner child. And so we've kind of been afraid to reconnect to that part of ourselves. But it is in there somewhere. So just ask yourselves gently and directly, what might my inner child need to come out and play? Now, other parts of this new moon that I want to talk about, Venus is moving through Leo as well at the time of the new moon. So that really encourages us to enjoy life, especially when we're relating with other people, but also in terms of what we value right now. We really want to allow ourselves to have more time with the things that are satisfactory to us, that feel good to us, and take breaks for pleasure and playfulness. So we have that in our lives. So, if you can, take a break and just dance in your living room, or take a break and play with your pets, take a break and, have lunch with a friend, whatever that may mean for you, just tap into that playfulness and into that, feeling joy, feeling good, feeling bliss, right? And we're also getting an opportunity with this Venus placement to bring a more softer and friendlier and more loving approach to connecting to our inner child, right? So, or children in general as well, right? Because it's a child energy. It's a free, happy child energy. So it's not the wounded child, it's the happy child, right? That's the Leo energy. So we want to connect to that. So what have you always wanted to do? Ask yourself. Is there anything, when you were little, when you were still a kid, something that you've always wanted to do? Or who have you always wanted to be, right? And just play with that and just kind of, like maybe just step into that role, you know. You can do it with yourself, you can do it with a lover, you can do it with a friend, and just play around, you know. What would an inner child play date look like, right? Just kind of like think about that and get creative. What would that look like to have an inner child play date? And the less judgmental you can be about it, the less open and free you can be about it, the better, right? Now Mars is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius at the time of the new moon, and so that's asking us to take a look at how far we've come since March 5th, the last time Mars moved into Sagittarius, because Mars has been retrograde. And so there is sort of like a repeat of some sort that we're needing to tap into. So March 5th was the time when Mars moved into Sagittarius for the first time, and now it's doing this again. And so it's time to take some actions on all the projects we've had on hold or that were in slow motion since then. And you can ask yourself, you know, how has your perspective shifted in the past 5 months, right? Because this has been 5 months ago. And how does that impact the way you take action now? Maybe there's a different perspective that you have and a different way that you want to move forward with some of these projects that you've had on the back burner or that have been moving really slowly. Right? So just kind of ask yourself those questions. And again, with all my questions, you don't have to answer them right away. You can just sit with them. You can meditate with them. You can journal on them. They're just there to inspire you and to bring forth the answers that are already inside of you, right? So it's not about really finding the answers. It's more about allowing the answers to bubble to the surface, right? Now, another planet that we want to talk about, Saturn in Sagittarius, trines the new moon, makes a beautiful kind of fluid aspect to the new moon. And this sends a message that commitment and discipline are definitely keys for us to understanding our heart, understanding our heart's desire right now. So it's really connecting beautifully to that Leo energy. So we're getting more of this message that, you know, commit to exploring, commit to, you know, moving beyond what you already know, and just see how you can connect that to your heart energy and just being really fully and authentically yourself, right? Now, Saturn is also the focal point of a T-square. Yet again, Saturn has been the focal point of T-squares quite many months in a row, but I'll talk about that momentarily. But first, let's talk about Saturn is also stationing at the time of the new moon. It's kind of slowing down to get ready to come to a halt, because it's going to start to go direct again in the middle of August. And so now we're getting this sense we need to allow ourselves to see more clearly what this energy is all about for us. As a planet slows down, we become more aware of that energy, right? So you might become more aware of the very high expectations that we put on ourselves and other people, for example, because, you know, Saturn is in Sagittarius right now, high expectations. And when it comes, especially when it comes to like life perception, how we perceive life, how we see life, what we believe about life, right? So you can ask yourself with this Saturn placement right now, that Saturn station, what do I notice about the world that seems scary or limiting? Right? Because the lower vibrations of Saturn can be about fear and limitation. So what do you notice about the world that seems scary and limiting? And then just remember that the outside world is very often a reflection of what we do to ourselves. So what you can also ask yourself is like, in what way does that relate to how I treat myself, to how I view myself, my own life? And where shall I set healthy boundaries for myself so I can feel connection without overwhelm? Because what happens with Saturn too sometimes is we get sometimes a little bit overwhelmed because we're so focused in on something, and it just feels a little bit overwhelming because we want to do well, we want to do it perfectly. There's a certain amount of perfection that comes with that Saturn energy. So how can we feel connected without feeling overwhelmed? By setting healthy boundaries. and what might change if we prioritized where we put our focus and what we believe in, right? So there's sort of like, if we can prioritize what we focus on in the outside world, or even within ourselves too, and just look to see how is that related to our belief systems as well, and kind of like change what we prioritize, right? And what would my experience be like then if I could shift that, if I could change that, and just create a little bit more of flexibility there, right? Because Saturn can be very rigid. It can be, when we come from fear, there can be rigidity that creeps in. So that station is really going to show us how rigid are you, or it will show us how much are you not in touch with reality, right? With the reality that's actually right in front of you. So we're either being confronted with reality if we're completely out of touch and completely like not wanting to connect to the Saturn energy. And if we're very connected to the Saturn energy, then we might feel sort of that rigidity. We might feel this sense of like, no, this is how it is. These are the rules. This is what we need to do. And then, of course, we need to look at that too, because either way, whether we're feeling too rigid or too loosey-goosey about life and our perception about life, it doesn't serve us. It's not healthy, right? So we need to really find kind of like, where are we on that spectrum? Where can we turn the volume up or down, right? If we're too much on the rigidity level, maybe we need to turn the volume more towards the other side. And if we're too much on the, avoiding reality level, wishing it were otherwise type deal, then we need to turn the knob more towards the other side. So just kind of like see where you're at on that spectrum, right? Now, next I want to talk about Neptune in Pisces, which is making a somewhat challenging connection to the new moon. And this is really asking us to make some internal adjustments and allowing ourselves to get some rest, to get some quiet time alongside our active playtime, right? Because the Leo energy is very extroverted, it's very active, and it's very much about connecting, and it's social, right? Whereas Neptune in Pisces is more of an introverted energy. It's more of a needing to slow down energy, needing to connect with our soul energy, right? So we need to make space for both somehow, see how we can find a way to rest and have some quiet time and maybe meditate or just take 5 minutes to close our eyes here and there. And then also honor that playfulness and honor that want to express ourselves and connect and have fun, right? So we're really invited here to open our hearts to fully love ourselves and others and life itself, and to really trust that we're always loved, that love is all there is. And everything that exists is a form of love. It's just not what we maybe in our conditioning, have labeled love. But if we think of it from that perspective, if we can think of love, that's everything there is, no matter what we name it, no matter what we label it, everything is love. There is a huge shift that can happen from that, right? So how does your internal experience vary from your external experience? That's something you can ask yourself with that Neptune placement towards the new moon. And what if everything you experienced really was a form of love? Not right, not wrong, not, whatever label we give it, just love, right? And no judgment about what it is. Now, another planet we want to talk about is Mercury in Virgo right now, because it's opposing that Neptune placement in Pisces, and both of those planets are making a square to Saturn in Sagittarius. So I already mentioned that a little bit when we talked about Saturn, this T-square that gets created with Saturn being the focus planet, right? That is that combination yet again invites us to bring maturity and responsibility to our communications and thought structures. So really kind of like allowing ourselves to look at more closely how does our thinking really work, and how do we bring that to other people? How do we communicate our own thinking? And so questions you can ask yourself with this particular T-square: what calls out for clarity? If there's something in your own mind that needs clarity, or something that you need to communicate that needs clarity, right? What role does trust and compassion play in all of this? And the reason why this question is important is because sometimes we have a hard time communicating or really zooming into our own thought structures because we're not trusting, or because we're not capable of being compassionate with ourselves or with other people. And so, of course, it always starts within you. So the first person you want to be compassionate towards is yourself before you even start being compassionate towards other people, right? So trusting yourself and trusting that intuitive part of yourself and being compassionate, look to see what role those two things play in order for you to have clarity in your thinking, in your communications, right? And then could you move just a tiny bit further from rigid, fearful thinking and assuming to thoughtful, mature contemplation and communication? So I know this is a really long question, so feel free to go to my website to find that question in my weekly forecasts text about the new moon, right? But there's one more question I have, which is what might be possible if you communicated your expectations honestly and from a place of compassion. And I think that's been a big one for me, very much with all those Saturn T-squares, to really have the courage to speak about my expectations with other people, and to not feel that, they either should already know what I'm expecting, or to feel guilty or bad about having expectations with other people. And so this has been really a theme for me. So that's why I wanted to share that question with all of you as well, in case you have felt that as well at some point. So what might be possible if you communicated your expectations honestly and from a place of compassion, right? So of course, always being compassionate with yourself as well, but if you can, expressing it also compassionately towards another person. Now, last thing I want to mention is Uranus in Aries is trining Venus in Leo at the time of the new moon. And so this aspect really urges us to be true to ourselves and make any changes that help us realize our personal vision, whatever we visualize for life. And of course, Uranus is also still stationing at the time of the new moon. It's moving slower in the sky still. So we're definitely getting this Uranian energy is very strong in terms of us needing to follow our vision, making a difference. And so Venus in Leo supports that by saying, yes, I'm going to express myself and I'm going to express what this vision is all about for me. And so questions you can ask yourself with this is, what is the ideal world that you only can see? So whatever your vision is, that ideal world, what is that exactly? What does that look like to you? And how might your own unique talents help you bring it into being? And that is connected to the Leo energy, right? Your own unique talents. How can you bring that vision into being through tapping into these talents and expressing them, right? With courage. So to sum it all up with this new moon, we really want to experience joy from a place of responsibility and maturity. We want to, be sort of in our healthy parent with joy and with playfulness, right? And it also invites us to tap into our divinity by being authentic and coming from the heart in every moment of now. So really being present to that, being present to the heart, being present to our own authenticity. So, so there's a couple of more coaching questions that I have here that might be helpful with this. So what might change if you trusted your intuition 5% more, right? The heart, the intuitive place inside of us. What if you were a careful, loving parent to your intuition? And I love that question in particular because I think it's so beautiful to think of our intuition as this very innocent, beautiful child in a way, because children have very strong intuition, especially when they're very, very young. And to just allow yourself to be a careful, loving parent to that place in you, to just kind of nurture it. Because very often as children, we hadn't gotten that nurturement and that trust from our own parents to know that our intuition is actually correct and that our intuition is actually very powerful. You know, a lot of times we're being told by adults, you know, when we're children that, oh, what you're saying is crazy or oh, that doesn't work, whatever, and it's being dismissed. So how can we, for ourselves, really create that relationship with our own intuition that we can be that caring and loving parent, right? Now, one more bonus question that I have, one last one. What might it be like to create, not for the sake of achieving or gain, but out of love, joy, and fun? And what might you be able to achieve actually when you are creating from that place, right? That might be another bonus question on top of the bonus question, right? So if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 9 to 13 degrees of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, then this new moon definitely is going to feel more strong for you, more impactful for you. But even if you don't have personal planets in those degrees and signs, the house placement in your natal chart, in your birth chart, affected by this new moon is equally as important to take a look at. So take a look at your birth chart and just see, where is 11 degrees of Leo? And that area of your life will indicate where you're needing to bring more joy and more playfulness and more fun to that area of your life for the next 2 weeks, right? So take a look at that for yourself. And if you don't have a birth chart, if you don't know how to do that, feel free to watch my video on how to read your birth chart. You can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line, and we will email you a high-res version of that video with some handouts that come with it. And it's also a really fantastic video to watch right before you join the monthly forecasting forum, which is a forum that I offer online, a 90-minute webinar every month around the time of the full moon. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But first, I want to make a really, really important announcement before we talk about the new moon intentions. I will be in New York City from August 23rd until September 6th because a friend of mine is getting married. So I will be there for 2 weeks in New York City, and I will be available for in-person readings for anybody who's interested at that time. And I don't offer those very often, these in-person readings. So if you are the kind of person who prefers in-person readings to phone readings or Skype readings, then definitely take advantage. I will only have a limited amount of time slots for those 2 weeks. So if you're interested, email me as soon as possible. And also, I'm sorry to say that I'm not available for Skype or phone readings during that time. So for those 2 weeks, I will only be doing in-person readings. I will not be doing any Skype or phone readings during that time. So if you don't live in the New York area and you were thinking about getting a reading with me via Skype or phone, then please book your reading now so I can fit you in before August 23rd. Or book it for after September 6th, because most likely those time periods right before I leave and right after I get back will probably be very, very busy. So plan ahead. I'm going to try and plan ahead too, so that we're all taken care of, okay? Now, the next best thing besides getting a one-on-one reading with me is joining my monthly forecasting forums, the ones that I just mentioned earlier. So, and the reason for that is because during the monthly forecasting forums, we will be looking at our birth charts actively. We will look to see about the upcoming energies. For this next monthly forecasting forum, it will be about the energies that are coming up in late August, early September. So to see how those energies impact us personally, each one of us, by looking at where these energy patterns land in our own birth charts, right? So it's very valuable to actually come and join me. So please, just remember that, late August, early September, what's coming up is there will be a Mercury retrograde. There is going to be a solar eclipse in early September, right? So these are really high potent things that we want to kind of understand how they affect us personally, right? So if you do want to know how that's affecting you personally, then join our next forum on Thursday, August 18th at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, which is also New York time, and 11 p.m. London time. Okay, so if you live in a different time zone, just make sure that you look it up. The difference between New York time and your time zone, or London time and your time zone. Okay, now you can sign up to join the webinars live, or you can register to receive an MP4 recording, which includes a video and all the stuff that we're going to be showing and talking about. So it's still extremely valuable to watch the recording. It's only $24 for the 90-minute webinar. So I think that's a really great price and really great value, especially considering what you're getting out of it, right? And so if you want to register now, you can just go to my website at astrologercoach.com and click below the Saturn in Sagittarius video. There is a link connected to the monthly forecasting forums, and then it will take you to a page that will show you what it's about, when it is exactly, and you can make your payment there, and you can also fill out an online form at the bottom of that page. And please, I want to invite you guys not to forget to fill out that form, because it helps me to know whether you're going to be joining live or not. And it also gives you an opportunity to ask me questions in advance. And this is especially valuable if you're not going to be able to join live, because I will answer people's questions. Any questions that I get through that forum, I will answer during the webinar. All right? So now, the moment we have been waiting for, the new moon intentions. Thanks for staying with me. We're going to set some powerful intentions for this moon cycle. And the best time to do that is the first 48 hours of the moon cycle, of after the new moon becomes exact. And you want to avoid moon void of course phases. So not during a moon void of course phase. And the first 48 hours are most potent. So this month, the best and most potent time to set these intentions would be any time between 4:45 p.m. in New York time or East Coast time on August 2nd, which is when the new moon becomes exact, until 12:13 a.m. So that's in the middle of the night, right after midnight. In late night, August 3rd, early morning, August 4th, right? So it's already August 4th. And then again, after 3:34 a.m. on August 4th until 4:45 p.m. on August 4th. So there's a huge big window of when we can set intentions this time around. So this is wonderful. We're all getting an opportunity to really set some great intentions for ourselves. You can, all the times that I just gave were New York time, East Coast time. So if you live in a different time zone, feel free to convert those time zones into your own time zone wherever you live. But you can also join me on my Facebook fan page or on my Twitter page, because I will be sending out reminders during those times to let you know several times, now is a good time to set your intentions. So feel free to just stay tuned in with me on Facebook or Twitter if you if that's easier for you, whatever works, right? And one last thing I wanted to mention about the new moon intentions is if you want more information, if this is your first time setting new moon intentions and you want more information about how to do that, you can go to my Facebook fan page and check out my notes section from your computer. Unfortunately, that cannot be accessed via phone. And in my notes sections, there is a description of how you can set your new moon intentions and what's the best way to do that. You know, how to write them down, what to do with what you've written down, what's the best time frame, blah, blah, blah. All the details, okay? Now, I will do my best and post those new moon intentions again also on my Facebook fan page, on the page itself. That way you might be able to also see it via my iPhone. You just might have to scroll up or down after the new moon becomes exact. All right? Now, again, all the questions from this video are also available on my website at astrologercoach.com via my weekly forecast. So just look on my website where it says weekly forecast, click on that link, and then you'll get to my weekly forecast page. After July 31st, I will be posting it. So on July 31st in the evening or afternoon, I'm posting the forecasts. So that's when you can access those questions on my website. You can also sign up for them via email by emailing us at info@astrologercoach.com and writing weekly forecasts in the subject line. And if you don't want to receive weekly forecasts, which would be every Sunday evening, you can also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out twice a month. And the newsletter, you just write newsletter in the subject line and email us at the same email address. The newsletter includes special offers, videos, announcements, you know, what's going on with my business, that sort of thing. So feel free to sign up for whatever you're most comfortable with or whatever you want to receive in your inbox. And if you want to receive both weekly forecasts and newsletter, you can just write both weekly forecasts and newsletter in the subject line. All right? So have a fantastic new moon. Remember, it's an introverted time. Remember, it's a time where we go within just so we can tap more fully into that Leo energy and feel for ourselves intuitively what that is about for us. But you can also, if you have any general questions for me about the new moon or about anything connected to astrology, feel free to email me at Sonja@astrologercoach.com. That's SONJA@astrologercoach.com. I'd be happy to answer general questions. Personal questions, I will ask you to either book a reading with me or join the weekly forecasting forum. Either way, that's a much better way for me to answer personal questions because it will take too much of my time to do that via email. And I also want to make sure that I can answer your question fully and completely. So I want to make sure that that's possible. So feel free to do that either by going on my website, astrologercoach.com. You can book readings there. You can sign up for the monthly forecasting forum. So there is so much that you can do with me. All right. So have a good one, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with my next video. And until then, I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.